Hello, welcome to the demo on automatic device configuration, the feature of Logix 5000 and several PowerFlex drives. What we have here is a PowerFlex 525, one of the newer models. And we also have some DLR cards in our Control Logix chassis, as well as some Stratix switches, 5400s for the rep ring and 5700s for the IDF, the core. So, and then in Logix as well, I have two drives configured in the I/O tree. The first is a .20 that's programmed for parameters, and then the .21, the second one, is to demonstrate the DHCP persistence aspect of this feature-rich programming environment. So we're currently online active with this PowerFlex, as you saw, via parameter programming for the IP scheme. And so what we can do to demonstrate that this does work, also like to bring up the faceplate before we actually change anything, so you can see you know, where you would go, what to look for. So it's a little slow at first bringing it up, but then once you're in, clicking on the subsequent tabs doesn't take that long. So your general tab is where you would give it a name. The module definition, the firmware revision, this is very important, as we'll see later in the DHCP persistence part. You want to make sure that you have version 5 or greater. Currently version 5 is the latest, but depending on how long the drive's been sitting on a shelf, it may have an earlier version. So you want to make sure you get that flashed up to revision 5 at a minimum. That basically takes care of some DHCP anomalies that were discovered in the firmware. And so if you click the Drive tab, that brings up a new face here. You can look at the parameters that are currently in there. You got internal value and default, so that's the comparison. The default is what ships with the drive, or factory default. Internal value is what you programmed into the drive. Also, you have parameter groups, and you can select those here from the drop down on the left. So basic program, you know, your motor nameplate ratings, your full load current, common items you would use during, you know, commissioning the drive. And then your comms is a good one as well, obviously. So 129 through 132, those are the parameters that we've programmed into the drive itself, and that's what we were showing on that I/O tree earlier. So we're currently connected to the drive. It's running the ADC. So I had disabled this from a previous test, but basically you would want to enable the automatic device configuration last. You basically would go in, program all your IP subnets, octets, your gateway, default gateway, subnet mask, get all that in there, all your motor nameplate information, completely configure the drive, and then the last thing you do is click on this. And so that keeps you from, say you were to make another change and then cycle power. If you'd already had enable ADC configured, then it would overwrite with the last with where you had saved all the device parameters. So it's basically you do it last so that you don't overwrite any other changes. Hit apply. When I did that, the drive did fault right there because it's writing that to memory and rebooting it, and that's normal. So you go ahead and let that go. It did also flash here, flicker on the screen. It's now configuring the drive. It's writing those parameters into the memory space now. So we didn't actually change anything. All we did was enable the ADC, the automatic device configuration, and so now you have a baseline parameter set that to compare against any future state changes or parameter settings in the drive itself. So what we can do now is, actually that's interesting, it's okay, the yield sign was just there, but it takes a bit longer for the Ethernet IP to resolve once an ADC configuration has happened. But see there under status running, so it took it about maybe 10-15 seconds for that to go away, and that's normal. So what we can do now that it is enabled is go ahead and go into the drive, and we'll make a basic change. Go into parameter 33, our full load amps. And before I do that, I'd like to disconnect this cable so that the ADC doesn't automatically write in before we could have a chance to show you. So go ahead and clear that fault. Go back in. And notice it does keep the last parameter that you were in under. So another nice feature of the 525 series is if you stay on a parameter longer than 2 or 3 seconds, it will tell you what that parameter is about. So it's pretty cool. And so let's go in there. Let's change that. Go ahead and escape out. So it's been reconfigured. At this point I'm going to cycle power to the drive for that change to take effect. Wait for the capacitor to discharge. Go ahead and reconnect power. We'll let that go ahead and power up. Then we'll re-establish our Ethernet comms and watch the configuration happen automatically. So we'll go ahead and clear that. Okay, it's good. We're going to reconnect now. And so now it did just flicker there. The drive did click. Notice it says configuring. It's correlating. So at this point it's re-downloading the parameter 33. That was the only thing we changed, but if there were other parameters that had changed, if this had been a brand new drive, say the drive got smoked overnight, for whatever reason, it would configure it would notice every parameter difference from how it was previously configured and download each of those parameters into the online resident memory of the PowerFlex. And so it's still configuring. It says it's running now. So configuration complete, and we're good on the PowerFlex and the IO tree as well. So at this point we can go back into the drive. And parameter 33, just to verify that it did change it back to 2.5 amps. So it worked. The automatic device configuration happened automatically, and it's back up in a running state at this point. If the program was calling for motor control, the drive would take off and provide power to your pump. So thanks for watching the demo. I will be adding a second one for DHCP persistence.